took out the Hezbollah leadership, he lost his base of support.
But the current ISIS leadership, you don't think is bad? You can't say it's terrible that ISIS runs a country?
I am concerned about it.
Concerned? Aren't you horrified?
I want to see what they do.
Oh, so you got a wait and see attitude on ISIS now?
On the government of Syria, they are not actively, that I am aware of, trying to murder Americans. And that's a real dividing line. Are you trying to murder Americans or not?
I'm just saying it's a little weird that we waged this war against ISIS and now they're running a country in the Mediterranean. I think that people would be very, very upset about that. But you don't seem very upset about that.
Did you agree with Trump taking out al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS?
I'm totally opposed to ISIS. And what I care about is results, actually. And if taking out the head of ISIS ends ISIS, I guess I'm for it. But now ISIS runs Syria. Okay, but I'm wondering how does this work?
I mean, my point is...
At the time, I mean, I've taken so many different positions over the years, some of which have been wrong. I really do my best to be honest and correct if they are and admit that I was wrong. I'm not one of these people who's like, I've always been consistent. No, my views change all the time because the facts change all the time. You're not going to get consistency from me. You're only going to get sincerity.
Well, I will say this. And look, I believe you're sincere.
Okay. First off, this is where Ted Cruz goes wrong. Know that if I ever interview a dirtbag like this, I'm not going to say things like this. Oh, yeah, I know you're sincere. Oh, no, you're not anti-Semitic. No. To be very honest, he does nobody any... Well, he does is he gives Tucker Carlson the strength to lie and be more dishonest. Because Tucker says to himself internally, no matter what gross tactic I use, Ted Cruz plays by rules that I don't have to play by. And so I'm always going to kind of get the upper hand in a way because of that. It's like coming to a, rocket launcher battle with with a fork. Tucker got the rocket and he just keeps shooting it with his...
I see he doesn't want to come off and attack me.
Yeah, so and if we just talk about this piece real quick, right? It's definitely a complicated piece. First off, I partially agree with Tucker, okay? This a wait and see attitude with a radical Muslim terrorist leader, that's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. Period.
Right, but
waiting till they get strong enough to attack America and to attack Americans throughout the world, that is beyond irresponsible. That's like being a police officer and knowing, the house at the end of the block is getting ready to mass murder people, and you're like, well, it's not happening right now. They're not coming to my house right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's helpful. Sorry to cut you off. Sometimes I think it's very helpful to simplify things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You take the same thing and you take the same exact situation, you just make it 1,000 times worse and slightly different, and then it's clear. I think when you put something like that, if the neighbor at the end of the street is getting ready to grape and murder, random people, you have no idea who, and you're the sheriff, and you're like, well, he hasn't walked on my property yet. What are we doing?
Yeah, but again, who's gonna fill the power vacuum if you start bombing ISIS?
Well, now we get into a weird territory that we're not really ready to get into just yet, but we will. And that's where I think a body like the UN should be able to come in some helpful ways. So the UN, for example, should be able to have the type of discussions, conversations, and agreements created to then have, as many healthy countries as possible jump in and, pull their fair share. And that's kind of got to be what it is, in my opinion. So if I were president tomorrow, right, President Micah, the first thing one of the big pieces would be either disbanding NATO or creating my own version of NATO, because NATO's we'll get there. The NATO's run by terrorists and dictators right now, and cowards who are terrified of them, they support them on all the votes. So stuff like this, there's nothing you can do, because most people are going to vote against. They're going to say, how dare you? Look at this radical Muslim. He put a suit on, and he says he's changed. How dare you not give him a chance? Yeah, so what if he was involved in, dozens or hundreds or thousands of deaths? Who knows? How dare you? You can't tell the people how to live. You can't tell them how to, rule themselves. And sorry, I'll step this other one super fast. right? You said something yesterday about the need to spread democracy in the world. And I thought, maybe that's where we're going wrong half the time. You know, I have such concerns about democracy at this point. And my concern is that this is where I wish, if in editing we find this piece later, I'm going to put that clip of the, I don't know, that sheik or whatever he is. He does that quote, you know, by the people, for the people, but the people are retarded.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Yeah, that's the relevant quote. Is like, you take these Islamic countries that that don't represent our values in any way, for the most part. When you take out the terrorist leaders in charge, problem is the population are all radicalized because of the, you know, the death cult religion that is Islam. That's how I feel. I don't know how you can have almost 50 countries, the worst places you ever want to live on the world, and all of them are Muslim countries. It says a lot to me.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the thing. You can't take out one dictator and say, all right, guys, good luck. Here you go. This is going to work out great this time.
Yeah.
Every single time you either get a warlord comes in power or they just vote the warlord in.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I believe in needing to have an intervention in these countries. But you can't just then say, okay, radical Islam, who, you know, and radical Islam who runs everything to such an extent that those who are not radical are irrelevant. Because in the end, radical Islam is what runs everything. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a Muslim and you agree with it. In the end, large populations of Muslim equal terror. As sad as that is.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, you can't be an isolationist because Islam's going to take over the entire world. That's how I feel. And maybe as time goes on, maybe some of my thoughts will change there. But thousands and thousands of hours of interviews, research bring me to these conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in Europe.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, we'll definitely have some good episodes on Europe because it's horrifying. And we see what's happening in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, we have basically, kind of mentioned before, we have the 3 stages. You have the 50-ish Muslim countries that already exist, right? And the history of maybe even just the last 100 years or so, of how they got that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 100 years ago, it was something like 12. Okay? That is insane rise in 100 years. Yeah, exactly. And AI, if AI is not lying to me, right? By 2100, 1 out of every 3 people will be Muslim on the entire planet, with the most popular name being Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a man known for raping, murdering, slaughtering, marrying a 6-year-old girl, having sex with her when she was 9 years old, putting entire towns to death. The worst stuff possible. The man who invented the whole full body burqa, if that's what it's called. We still look that up, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought it was fascinating. I read about that a while ago, something that I looked back into. It said that supposedly the way that came about was that Muhammad at the time, you know, being the bloodthirsty warlord that he was, drunk on power and all that, he started taking wife after wife after wife after wife, and it started shaming him amongst his followers, his closest followers, because what they were seeing from him was a polar opposite, right, of stuff that he was pulling from these other Abrahamic religions. So he was basically saying, do this, but not like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he created this thing to hide his shame, and to such an extent now that millions and millions of women wear that.
Right.
They're basically erased by Islam.
Yeah, they don't have any rights.
Yeah. All right. Back to Ted Cruz. Struggling with Tucker.
Yeah,
But
I'm not
And-
God. I'm
and-
just some guy watching, trying to figure out the right thing for America.
And I think because
Please forgive me 1 quick second. We didn't discuss the really point here. Ted Cruz, the point he's making is, once again, Tucker, you claim that you would defend America. Once again, you claim, right, these are my red lines. This is where we'd stop them. Tucker is trying to repeatedly blame Ted Cruz and say, if this stuff is so bad, how are you so irresponsible by not supporting taking action?
Mm-hmm.
when Tucker, in every single situation, minus like the Iraq War 20 years ago, says absolutely not. There's no situation where we should take action.
Right.
And then and so it's interesting because he just flip flops over and over again throughout this episode with the things that he says, and he goes to the counter and the opposite and the opposite and the opposite.
Yeah, he's just trying to counter him.
Yeah, it's just there's no truth from Tucker. You know, the fact that you can be this outspoken about saying, "Well, if it's that dangerous, then we should do something about it." And if that's how Tucker felt, I would be with him. I 100% agree that. But Tucker doesn't believe that. That's all a lie.
Yeah.
He's just pretending because in every situation he's voted, he has outspokenly made it clear that the worst thing we could do was take action.
Mm-hmm.
Iran, Soleimani, every single thing that's gone down in the last 10 years or so, he's pretty much against.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then he'll condemn everyone else who's against it later on to make them look bad. Pretty bad.
You believe you were mistaken, and I agree. Previously, I think you've overcorrected.
Overcorrected. I'm worried about turning this mess in Iran into a much larger mess. That's the concern. And
By the way, that's a reasonable worry. Look,
I know it's reasonable. And I know you've been like, you're like ready to call me all these names for asking, you're just asking questions. Yes, I am. So here's my question to you. If the Ayatollah is killed in Iran, and he very well
could, if there's a
so
war.
I have just read in the paper this morning that Israel tried to take him out twice and Trump told them not to.
I have read that. I don't have independent confirmation one way or the other.
Do you think that they should take him out?
So I actually talked about it. As you know, I do a podcast every week, Verdict with Ted Cruz, and I actually talked about it in the latest podcast. And I said, look, I've seen the reporting that says that Trump asked them not to take out the Ayatollah. And what I said in the podcast is I think it's reasonable for them to decide not to try to take him out. What they've done is targeted just about the entire top level of the military, the people that actually conduct the war. I can see an argument that taking out both the head of state and a religious leader could make him a martyr and could cause more problems than it's worth. And by the way, if you take out the Ayatollah, I don't know if the next guy isn't just as bad. And so I am.
What happens to the country?
I don't know, but you mentioned before, and I want to go back to this. You said something like, you, like most other politicians, are engaged in moral terms. And let me be clear. I am talking about national interest. I am talking about protecting America. So there are bad guys on planet Earth that I don't think we should take out, even though they're bad guys.
Good.
I'll call them bad guys, but I'm not willing to use U.S. military force to take them out. In this instance, what Israel is doing is taking out their capacity to build nuclear weapons. Why? Because they judge the risk is too high if they got nuclear weapons.
I understand that. I mean, I understand that. I think it's in progress. I think it'll probably be achieved, probably with U.S. military support. Who knows? But the president said he's for that.
And by the way, where the military support is most needed is Fordow, which is it's a bunker that's built under a mountain.
Right.
And Israel's taken out most of the rest, like Natanz, which is their big enrichment site. They bombed the hell out of it. Fordow was deliberately built deep into a mountain so that Israel couldn't take it out. And there's an active discussion because the U.S. has bunker buster bombs that are big enough to take out Fordow.
30,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Israel doesn't. So the one military piece that...
Nor the aircraft to fly them.
Correct. Right.
But here's, I guess, what bothers me is that I said 2 weeks ago, the real goal here is regime change in Iran. It's not.
I don't think that's Trump's goal.
And I don't. It's your goal. It's Israel's goal. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just saying it's important to be honest and not lie and not attack people for telling the truth.
So I believe I've been assiduously honest in this, but words matter. You said the real goal here is regime change and it's your goal. And I want to be clear.
Well, you said it was your goal.
I want to be clear because words matter. Do I support regime change and would I like a government that doesn't hate America and isn't trying to kill us in Iran? Yes, that's a good outcome. Is that the objective of these military strikes? I don't think necessarily. I don't know if it's Israel's. It's not my objective. My objective is taking out...
U.S. If Israel decides we're going to decapitate the government and try to foment an uprising against it, should the United States participate in that operation in any way?
Look, I have not called for killing the Ayatollah. And there is nations in war generally refrain from attacking and killing heads of state. Now, the Ayatollah doesn't. He's trying to kill Trump. We talked about that.
But we shouldn't punish him for it.
Look, there has been a long-standing nations in war have refrained from killing heads of state. I have not publicly called for killing the Ayatollah. What I've called for is doing whatever is necessary to stop him from getting nuclear weapons. In the first Trump term, what that meant was maximum pressure. So in the first Trump term, I spent a lot of time urging the president to withdraw from the disastrous Iranian nuclear deal that Obama had. President Trump agreed with me. He did that. And then I urged him to end the oil waivers and to sanction the hell out of the country. And it ended up crippling their economy. So Iran at the time was selling 2 million barrels of oil a day. 1 million barrels of oil a day. When President Trump ended the oil waivers, it cut their sales to 300,000 barrels a day. At the end of the Trump term, the Iranian economy was in shambles. They had massive inflation. I think the regime was teetering. I think it might have fallen. I would use economic sanctions and I would use moral suasion to try to effectuate the regime change.
Okay, so you topple the regime and by whatever means, what happens then? How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
Here it is. Here it is.
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? What?
This is where I'd probably say, get the fuck out of my office. Get the fuck out of my office. Security, get this piece of shit out of my office. You disgusting, low-life little scumbag. I will not tolerate another second. As far as I'm concerned, you will never step office. Never set foot in this office ever again, you low-life scumbag.
Yeah.
I just have no tolerance for something like this. Get him the fuck out. Oh, man. God, it's so disgusting.
Why is
because
that
if
relevant?
you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about.
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and
What percent?
predominantly Shia. Okay, this is
it's
cute.
not
Okay.
even, you don't know anything about Iran. So
Okay,
actually,
I
the
am not
country-
the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a
who
senator
says-
who's calling
Okay,
for the
you're the one who
overthrow of the
claims.
government.
You're the one who
You don't
claims.
know about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump.
Yeah.
No,
You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a
saying
good
you
idea
don't
to kill
believe-
General Soleimani, and you
You
said it was bad.
believe they're trying to murder Trump
Yes, I do.
because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe
we're
that,
carrying out military strikes today,
you said Israel was.
right? With our help.
If we do...
I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
We're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
It's high
Israel.
stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war
we're-
with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay, we are not bombing them.
Oh, okay.
Israel is bombing them. And hey, why do you do the snide? Oh,
What do
okay.
you mean? Because this is super high stakes stuff. This is a huge country that borders a lot of other important countries. A lot of the world's energy comes from there.
So
We
let me
you
ask
don't
you,
want
Tucker,
another disaster. You don't want to be
Tucker, the
reckless.
Ayatollah refers to Israel as the little Satan and America as the great
know.
Satan. Do you believe him when he says it's the great Satan? Do you
believe
think?
him. Of course I
Do you
believe
think if
him.
the Ayatollah could murder both of us right now that he would? I do. I believe him.
Okay, I assume no good faith on the part of the Ayatollah.
No, not
and if
good
your
faith.
implication is like
It's not
I'm
good
pro
faith.
Ayatollah or
No,
something,
no. It's not good faith. It's that
just saying
It-
you're a lawmaker. You're a powerful person in Washington. This is the most powerful country in the world. If you're calling for toppling in government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's reckless.
Okay, you engage in reckless rhetoric with no facts. And to be clear,
I'm not calling
you-
for the
you put out
overthrow
a
of a
newsletter.
government.
You put out a newsletter attacking Donald Trump and calling him complicit.
never
I can
attacked
read-
Donald Trump.
Yes, you have. And by
I
the way,
campaigned for Donald Trump.
Okay, yes,
And this is
and-
like after anti-Semitism, this is the last refuge. You're an anti-Semite and you hate Trump.
okay,
I love Trump.
I will read. You put out a whole newsletter saying Trump has abandoned America first. And here's what Trump said in response. Well, considering that I'm the one that developed America first and considering that the term wasn't used until I came along, I think I'm the one who decides that. For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. That is directed at you.
Man, you got me. Busted.
No, I'm just saying.
Look, my views. Look, I like Trump. I campaigned for Trump. I know Trump. I talked to him last night. I'm not against Trump, and you know that.
What you're against is foreign policy.
I think that we should be very careful about entering into more foreign wars that don't help us when our country is dying.
When you say
And our
don't
country
help
is
us,
dying.
Look, yes, focus on our country. I'm all for it. But the naivete.
You don't even know how much money this costs. You don't know anything about the country whose government you want to overthrow, and you're calling me reckless.
I want to stop a lunatic who wants to murder us from getting nuclear weapons that could kill millions of Americans.
Fair.
You say, I can't see how that benefits America in any way. That is bizarre. And by the way,
bizarre.
Isolationism, your foreign policy is the foreign policy of Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm a big leftist. Let me just say so silly. Now I'm Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. Okay. Let me just say one last thing.
So how is your foreign policy different from Jimmy Carter's? Seriously.
Please.
But I asked that question seriously.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Jimmy Carter?
So
what century is this? I am the product of the last 25 years, watching carefully, being involved in the periphery, and I see an unending string of foreign policy disasters that have impoverished and hurt our country.
Unending string.
Wait, you watched history for all this time and you don't know who Jimmy Carter is? So you don't know anything about history? You don't know anything about history and you're sitting here and you're talking about it? It's so irresponsible.
This guy's just unhinged.
I know, I loathe him so much. But only because he's such a powerful platform and he's just twisting so many people.
Yeah.
So
Unending string. They would include Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and our inability to stop the Houthis, by the way, in Yemen, which exposes us as weak, and I grieve over that. So these are failures. You helped preside over some of them as a member of the Senate.
What failures, foreign policy failures have I presided over?
Well, we were unable to beat Russia in the war that you supported against Russia. You've been spending the last 3 years telling us that Vladimir Putin is evil and we're going to beat him with other people's children.
And Tucker spends every opportunity to support Putin. It's funny things like this. He says, you're not successful, Ted Cruz. And then what he doesn't say is, meanwhile, I support Russia every chance I get to help make you unsuccessful, right? Because that's really what a huge part of it is, right? Is the spoken word, obviously, it spreads. It makes such a huge difference. And when a man like this was a platform of millions of people is telling people, oh, Putin's good, he's not evil, we're overstepping, look how wonderful Russia is. That stuff makes it, that's how Tucker is. So, he went to Russia. He went to Russia. He had a recorded episode walking through a grocery store talking about how clean everything was in Russia and how wonderful and inexpensive everything was.
Coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you.
Tucker Carlson says he's been radicalized by finding 2 weeks worth of groceries in Russia that only cost a little over $100. But all he's really done is discover how rich Americans are compared to Russians. Groceries and meals can be quite cheap because the dollar is worth a lot compared to many other currencies, and Americans generally have a lot more wealth to spend. The average Russian earns about 71,000 rubles a month. That translates to less than $800. And according to Russia's state-owned news agency, the average Russian household spends half its income on food. In America, the average monthly wage is over $4,700, and Americans spend less than 10% of their income on food. But maybe the best way to compare the two countries is to look at which one people are fleeing and which one people are standing in line to enter.
Oh, yeah. This is before he interviewed Putin. Putin, who treated him like he was an idiot for the softball questions that he gave Putin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just funny because this guy, this is the type of man who is partially responsible for not being successful because he influences so many people.
Yeah.
And he just mentioned the Houthis. I would almost bet my life on it that he either has or will, Tucker, state that attacking the Houthis is the most dangerous thing that we could possibly do. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
If he's not said it already, he'll say it in the future. So right now he's talking about it, but again, it's all a scam.
And 1 million of those kids are now dead. You've never apologized for that. That was a full failure.
By the way, look, the level of number of falsehoods you lay out just in one statement are rather.
You haven't supported the war against Russia?
Has Tucker apologized to the thousands or millions of people who were killed in Iraq then? That's how we want to do it?
Yeah.
Imagine that. He says, you haven't apologized for the millions of children dead.
Yeah.
I would
And
throw
you
him
use
out of
him.
my office. So, you imagine the positive press that Ted Cruz would get. If he stood up, he said, get the fuck out of my office, you low-life scumbag. You have betrayed the country, you betrayed your family, your friends, and you have certainly betrayed your God.
Yeah. Well, if he did that though, it would just get Tucker more of an audience.
It's not like that. That's the concept of don't kill the bad guy because it creates more bad guys.
No, that's Trump's playing card is just do bombastic things for attention.
So the problem is Tucker's successful because he gets away with all his antics because nobody does the type of thing that I'm talking about.
Okay.
It would be a major... The problem is people don't stand up enough properly, the most powerful people, because they don't. The less powerful aren't willing to stand up as well. So when someone like Ted Cruz, right, he's been a senator for 13 years now, and he's a very well-known senator, when he stands up and says, get the fuck out of my office, you low-life dirtbag, you traitor to America, that's going to be on the front page of every newspaper in America after that. That would have some effect. That's how I feel.
All right.
Yeah.
Rather stunning. So the war against Russia was caused, which I had explained at great detail, by Joe Biden's weakness.
But you
It was-
supported the war.
If you want to talk, we can talk Russia and Ukraine. I'm happy to talk about it.
Do you think that's been a success?
No, it's been an absolute disaster.
Okay, but you supported it. Shouldn't you apologize?
No, you should apologize. I'm not
For
going
what?
to engage in the demanding of apologies. So I'm going to.
I'm like, that's my point is all these
Just-
failures and no one ever says I'm sorry.
Do you just throw out if you want to talk, we can talk.
Okay. I do. I want to know why that seems like a true disaster for the United States. You have supported it.
Do you believe Joe Biden's weakness caused the war in Ukraine?
I think Joe Biden's aggression caused it.
His aggression? What
He
aggression?
demanded that Ukraine join NATO. How does that help the United States?
Is a terrible idea, and I have vigorously opposed Ukraine joining NATO.
Okay, so that's what caused the war.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Do you want to know what caused the war? Look, you do the dismissive. You're not actually interested in facts. You're like, okay.
Okay, tell me. It seems super obvious. You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry. That is a tick of mine that is wrong, and I mean this with sincerity. I'm sorry to do that to you. I just think it seems so obvious that sending Kamala Harris to the NATO Security Conference to say you're going to join NATO is what triggered the invasion days later.
Okay, so can I get this? Will take a few minutes to lay out because it's complicated, but I think the facts matter. I think two things caused the war in Ukraine. Number one, I think Biden's incredible weakness and the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, I believe we need to leave Afghanistan, but not with the incompetence that led to 13 servicemen and women being murdered by terrorists there. The way Biden did that was disastrous, and I think our enemies looked to the commander in chief and said, this president is weak. And when that withdrawal was so disastrous, I said publicly at the time, the chances of Putin invading Ukraine have just risen tenfold.
Right.
But secondly, and this is critically
Well, I
important,
agree. That was awful, the withdrawal.
and it was a major cause of our enemies all said, hey, this president is weak. And so it invited, and by the way, look, I despise war, and I think weakness and isolationism produces war because it invites aggression from our bad guys. It's why I agree with Ronald Reagan's peace through strength. The best way you avoid war is being strong enough that your enemies don't want to mess with you. But let's get back to Ukraine and Russia. Look, Putin didn't wake up 2 years ago and decided he wanted to invade Ukraine. He's wanted to invade Ukraine for decades. Putin has referred to the collapse of the Soviet Union as, quote, the greatest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century. And Putin has long been explicit. His desire is to reassemble the old Soviet Union and, in fact, reassemble the Russian Empire that was even bigger than that. If you want to reassemble the Soviet Union, the natural place to start is Ukraine.
Do you really believe that Putin has territorial designs on Eastern Europe?
Yes.
What countries?
He has said that you can go and read his. Hold on. I don't want to lose the narrative of what happened, so we can go back and do that. But I don't want to lose telling the story first. So let me explain this, and then if you want to go back, we can take all sorts of digressions. But just give me a couple of minutes to lay out the facts of what happened. He has wanted to invade Ukraine a long time, And he's done it before. In 2014, he invaded Ukraine, invaded Crimea. When Barack Obama was president, he invaded the southern portion. He did not invade the rest of the country. Why? And the reason is the principal source of revenue for Russia is oil and gas, and the natural gas pipelines run right through the country of Ukraine. And he didn't want to jeopardize his ability to get gas to Europe.
Right.
So in 2015, Putin started a project called Nord Stream 2.
Did anything happen in 2014?
In terms of what?
Wasn't there a coup in Ukraine run by the Obama administration?
Let me finish telling, I told you, we'll take lots of digressions in a second. Let me finish telling the narrative. 2015, Putin began building Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2 is an undersea pipeline that runs from Russia to Germany. The entire purpose of Nord Stream 2 is when it was completed and turned on, it would let Russia circumvent Ukraine and get its gas straight to Europe. In 2019, Nord Stream 2 was almost complete. And the conventional wisdom in Washington was, this is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. I didn't believe that. So I drafted sanctions legislation that was targeted to stop the pipeline. My legislation passed the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. It passed the House, and Donald Trump signed it into law.
Can I just ask, why wouldn't you want Germany to have cheap energy?
Because it empowers Russia. And I believe in making our enemies weaker and our friends stronger.
Has blowing up Nord Stream made Germany stronger?
Not being dependent on Russia has made Germany stronger.
So you think Germany is stronger now than it was 4 years ago?
I think not being dependent on Russia. Germany has all sorts of problems, and many of them are domestic to their own politics. Hold on, let me finish. I'm trying to.
No, but what you're saying, it doesn't. Germany seems so much weaker now that its energy costs have spiked and the manufacturing sector is collapsing because of that.
Let me finish. I'm focused on America's interest. I don't want Russia stronger because I believe Russia is our enemy. You and I disagree on that. We can talk about that.
Tucker loves it.
But I want our enemies weaker. I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I want our enemies weaker. I don't want Europe dependent on Russia. I don't want Putin rich with oil and gas revenues and able to invest in his military and pose a threat to America. So the sanctions legislation that I authored, it passed. Putin stopped building Nord Stream 2 literally the day that President Trump signed my sanctions legislation into law. He signed it, if I remember right, at 7 p.m. on a Thursday. Putin stopped construction at 6:45 p.m. So the sanctions legislation worked, and it killed the pipeline. The pipeline lay dormant for over a year, just a hunk of metal at the bottom of the ocean. Joe Biden came into office. He was sworn in on January 20th, 2021. Putin resumed deep-sea construction of Nord Stream 2 4 days later, January 24th. He did so because Biden had foreshadowed weakness on this issue. That foreshadowing was accurate because several months later, Biden formally waived the sanctions on Nord Stream 2 and let Putin complete the pipeline. In January of 2022, I forced a vote on the Senate floor to reimpose sanctions on Nord Stream 2. The week of the vote, President Zelensky in Ukraine publicly called on the Senate, please pass this sanctions legislation. It is the last best hope of stopping Russia from invading Ukraine. At the same time, the government of Poland put out a formal statement from the foreign ministry to the Senate, calling on the Senate to pass my sanctions legislation, and said, if you do not, Putin will invade Ukraine. The day of the vote, Joe Biden came to Capitol Hill. It's the first time in his presidency he had done that. He went to the Democrat senators' lunch, and he personally lobbied them on this issue, not any other issue. This was his number one issue that he came to lobby them on. They came out of that lunch. Every Democrat had voted with me twice against Nord Stream 2. 44 Democrats flipped their vote. They voted in favor of Russia, in favor of Putin, and 4 weeks later, Russia invaded Ukraine. That was the direct cause of the war. And if Trump had been president, there would be no war in Ukraine.
May I ask, I, of course, disagree with your analysis completely, but I want to be respectful.
Okay.
And
so tell me what you disagree with.
It's such a long conversation. I've spent the last couple of years on this, and I just respectfully disagree with your analysis, but I don't doubt your sincerity that you believe that Putin is our enemy, that Western Europe should not be allowed to use Russian energy. I mean, you seem to really believe these things. My question is about results, because I think it's relevant to what we're seeing now in Iran. you look back after having you personally voted to send billions and billions and billions of U.S. tax dollars to Zelensky to support his civil service in the war against Russia and all this stuff. Can you say that what you did worked?
So I can say what I did personally, sanctioning Nord Stream 2 worked and prevented a war. And if Trump had still been there, if the sanction had been in effect, there would be no war. I'm in favor of avoiding wars.
But once the war broke out, you voted to fund it to the tune of billions and billions and billions.
And to be clear,
and did that work?
Okay, to be clear, what I voted for the initial tranche of funding, and then I voted against the subsequent one. So it hasn't worked. So I've been in between. I haven't been on the full Ukraine, full-throated hawk side or the anti from day one. I voted for the initial tranche of funding because I wanted Russia to lose. I think the Biden administration administered it in a horrible way. I think they wasted a ton of money. And I think what they did was actually incoherent because they were funding both sides of the war. I was very vocal and among other things, flooding $100 million to Iran, which was used, among other things, to help the nuclear program, but also to make drones that Russia used to fight.
So here's my...
So basically, Ted Cruz basically says, okay, due to my actions, we were doing great. Had Trump still been in power, according to him, the invasion of Ukraine would have never happened. Once Biden came in, Biden had that meeting. He flipped 40-something people, right? That was the big change right there. Due to the end result of that, caused the invasion, right? Caused the war to begin. Then, again, Ted Cruz hasn't said this piece, but I'm just going to assume, right? Now we're already in it, right? And so from Ted Cruz's point of view, well, the enemy is Russia, so I'm going to support funding to fight against Russia now that we're in it. Then he sees it's not going well. It's not going well because we're not fighting it properly. So he decides to not vote for any additional funding because of it. I got to say, this sounds like what I would do, Aaron. This sounds like me. I could easily be Ted Cruz in this situation, and I would stand by my actions completely from what I've seen.
Yeah, to me, it makes sense what he's saying and what he's doing. And I mean, I don't think the war is a failure yet for Ukraine. I think they're doing a good job of freaking holding Russia off right now. They easily could have been toppled. So the Ukrainians are fighting their butts off. They're doing an amazing job, I think.
I think so as well.
So I'm okay with sending funding to keep them alive, to keep Russia, because they are grinding their military down to nothing. This is massively hurting Putin. So you want to make your enemies weaker, like Ted Cruz is talking about? That's how you do it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting how Tucker doesn't want to engage in a single thing that he said. Because Tucker's just here to, I don't know what, I just don't understand the mindset of someone like Tucker. Because this should be such a phenomenal back and forth interview in terms of talking specifically about the things that Ted Cruz is saying in a healthy way. It's just all attack. Tell me what you disagree with, Tucker. I can't get into all that. That was too much. But let me just go ahead and say that you're wrong. Let me just tell you how bad you are. Have you apologized for the millions of people that you personally killed? Get the fuck out of my office.
I agree.
Yeah.
Concerned, I'm not going to defend the Biden administration. Really did a lot to wreck the United States.
Yeah, the most damaging administration in history.
Where we sit now, Russia is stronger. It's closely allied long-term with China.
I don't know that Russia's stronger. I don't think that's right.
I think it's pretty obvious that it is. But it's certainly not destroyed. And it's allied long-term with China.
Maybe. That there's no doubt Biden's foreign policy drove Russia into the arms of China, and that's concerning. Okay. They also have a long history of animosity.
Western Europe is weaker and more in debt. The United States is weaker and much more in debt.
Look,
hold on. So you and I
are agreeing on a lot.
We're agreeing. Here's my question. Have you questioned any of your previous assumptions? Did you play any role in this at all? Are you responsible at all?
Of course. And like you said...
What have you learned?
Like you said you've changed your mind.
Yeah,
I voted for the first funding of the Ukraine war, and I voted against every subsequent funding stream because it wasn't working. And I looked at what was happening and said, this is not working. And had the money been spent in an intelligent way and not wasted, and had it been successful, I might have been willing to fund more. But it wasn't successful, so I voted no. And the war is going to end. Look, President Trump campaigned on ending the war. I think he's frustrated because Putin has been less than eager to reach a deal to end the war, but it's going to end. You're not going to see another dollar
Do you think
coming from
Zelensky wants to end the war?
I think Zelensky has behaved horribly. I think his Oval Office meeting will go down in history as the worst Oval Office meeting of any leader that has ever come to the Oval Office. I think
Can we just talk about that for a quick moment?
Sure.
Did you see that?
I heard about it, but I did not actually see the meeting.
I can remember the times in my life where I was truly ashamed to be American. The first one was the fall of Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
I had never felt so ashamed in my life at what our two parties did to those people.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind to all the, servicemen and women who have truly sacrificed so much to have it all thrown away and given back to terrorists. The second time I felt incredibly ashamed in my life was what Ted Cruz is talking about right here. And Ted Cruz should be ashamed of himself right now, in my opinion. That was the most disgusting interview or the disgusting meeting I've ever seen in the White House. And we should probably watch it at some point.
He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking.
I know.
You're not winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You
not
haven't been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times.
But it was basically, you got Zelensky, then you got Trump and J.D. Vance, and then a whole bunch of people standing around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene's husband from the audience says to Zelensky, "Why aren't you wearing a suit?" And the president and the vice president just allow him to do this attack on him. They don't say a word.
Yeah. No, they treated him like shit.
They treated him so disgustingly bad, I couldn't believe it. And the worst person who treated him was J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was an attack dog, a vicious, disgusting attack dog.
Yeah.
And I was sickened. I was sick in my stomach when I saw this. I felt sick. I struggled to keep watching it because I couldn't believe it. This is how we treat an ally. And Ted Cruz is talking about it in such a way like it was Zelensky's fault. That's outrageous to me.
Yeah.
Outrageous. And maybe he's not. Is that the impression you're getting right now?
Not necessarily.
Not
I'd have to
necessarily?
kind of listen to him again on it.
Okay.
But in general, though, yeah, it seemed like everyone in the room teamed up on Zelensky,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember reading it correctly. And there were just some awful, rude, irrelevant things said.
And if you had seen, I don't know if you've seen all the previous episodes before you joined the show, phenomenal addition to the show that you are.
Awesome.
One of our episodes, Pat and I think it was right before the election. And so we went through the problems, at least as Pat and I saw in each party.
Mm-hmm.
And one big giant negative that I attributed the Republican Party to was support for Russia. They have a big Russia problem in the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that in action, that event, was such a proof of how poisoned the Republican Party is
Mm-hmm.
towards hating Ukraine and loving Russia. It's so insane.
Interesting.
And then someone like Tucker is now bringing in the hating the Jews as well. And it's like, dude, Republicans can't. It just can't have it.
Yeah.
You know, you're just turning the Republicans into the boogeymen that the Democrats have said they were for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
That's the craziest part to me. It's like, instead of uniting over and again, I know you and I will battle on this someday in the future, but instead of defending against the evil that is left-wing radical ideology,
Mm-hmm.
which is what caused someone like, which has caused so many murders and attacks and violence everywhere in America right now. And instead of all saying we have some major problems in the Democratic Party that if we don't rally against and fight against, we're going to lose our country. Instead, they said, let's just hate the Jews and support Russia.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful. And I can't even imagine who the next Kamala 2.0 is in 2028.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go back to, we're going to go back to the environment where if you're white, you're bad again. And everything everywhere will be everything but non-white everywhere you go. Every show is created with an endless amount of non-white people. Everybody's gay. Everybody's gay everywhere you go. It's just insane. Like, I got to a point at Netflix, man. It's everything. Everything is like nonstop, like depravity everywhere at all times. Like, God, what was it? Some show came on Netflix. It was like some cartoony anime thing with like, I don't know, it's like some Norse god looking thing. And I saw that and I thought, that might be fun for my son and I to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I had seen so much twisted stuff over the last year or two from Netflix that I said, you know what, let me just check it. And so I watched like an episode or two before I was going to watch it with my son.
Mm-hmm.
This is an example, right? Anime on Netflix, right? It's like in the middle, God, I'm trying to remember if I remember this right. In the middle of this anime, all of a sudden, it switches to a scene where a guy's eating out a girl. Like, wait, what? And the guy who's eating the girl out, he's getting fucked in the ass by a guy behind him.
Wow.
And so when I say depravity, right, this is what I'm talking about.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. And it was literally like, it was 2 hours before I was watching some other show. And it was like, I don't even know, some other weird god thing, and he's in a bar trying to help some guy do something. Yeah, my memory was not the greatest. And then he goes into and the god guy who's helping the guy figure something out, he goes to the bathroom, right? You don't even think anything about it. All of a sudden, it switches to the bathroom. He's getting fucked in the ass in the bathroom. What? Why do we need that?
Yeah.
How is that? Like, you just throw it in the middle. Like, I don't know, man. It's just hard for me.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like Game of Thrones. So I love Game of Thrones.
I love Game of Thrones, except for the end.
But that's a show I would love to watch with my kids, but there's so much sex and gratuitous nudity. It's not helpful.
And imagine taking that to the next level. If it's not just sex and nudity, it's like one person fucking another who's fucking the other person who might be being fucked himself at the same time. It's like so far beyond what's normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you love women, do your own thing. That's cool. You love men, do your own thing. That's cool. You can throw either one of those from time to time. That's cool. I don't care about any of that. But it's in your face with constantly, endlessly. Again, I'll always come back to this is why Trump got elected.
Yeah.
Because people don't get it, but they came for us everywhere. They came for us in our jobs, right? In our homes, in our entertainment, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
God. Dragon Age. They came for us at Dragon Age, man. You know how much I loved that game growing up? You ever played the original Dragon Age Origins?
I did.
Oh, God. Remember? Oh, you tell me that was not a powerful
That
game.
was an awesome
Battle of Ostragar. Oh,
that was a great game.
God.
I love that one.
I was so excited for another new one to be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing was wokeified, transified.
Oh, really?
Garbage. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely destroyed the franchise. come for you. That's the whole thing. They come for your home. They come for you in your job. This is what the Dems do. Come for you in your jobs. They come for you legally. They come for you on TV, in your entertainment, in your video games. Every single thing. That's how someone like Trump got elected. And now we have this insane rising anti-Semitism everywhere. And who's dead silent about it? Low-life Trump himself. And J.D. Vance.
Campaigned on ending the war. I think he's frustrated because Putin has been less than eager to reach a deal to end the war, but it's going to end. You're not going to see another dollar
Do you think
coming from
Zelensky wants to end the war?
I think Zelensky has behaved horribly. I think his Oval Office meeting will go down in history as the worst Oval Office meeting of any leader that has ever come to the Oval Office. I think
Real quick. He says Zelensky's behavior. He's pointing this at Zelensky.
Yeah.
We're going to watch this because this is where I lose so much respect from Ted Cruz after having gained so much from this interview. It's hard to watch that interview and say Zelensky acted dishonorably.
Yeah, no, I agree.
After that, I remember right after that happened, who was it? I love my boy Matt Walsh at the time. He came out with some headline of something about Zelensky, the welfare queen, right after this. It's so gross. I unsubscribed immediately after that. Amala, I used to like Amala a lot. A young girl also, I unsubscribed immediately. She was the same brain broken, Trump, Putin loving, Ukraine hating kind of nonsense. He's fallen into the standard Republican, mold.
behaved like a pompous ass. And I think he is unrealistic. I think Zelensky spends his time with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the New York Times, and he believed he was going to the Oval Office as a resist figure. And I think he's doing real damage to his country right now.
You described him many times as a hero.
I don't recall ever using the word hero. Look, I'm not a Zelensky cheerleader, and I'm not in the business of saying everyone we support has to be a saint and everyone we oppose has to be a villain. I'm not in the morality game. I'm in the U.S. interest game. Why did I want Nord Stream 2 stopped? Because it would strengthen Russia, and Russia's our enemies. It's entirely U.S. interest.
Did you support the industrial sabotage against it, blowing it up?
So I think you believe America did that. Is that right?
Of course.
Okay, I think the chances of that are zero.
You think Russia did it?
No, I think Ukraine did it. Okay, so I don't know. So I don't know who did it. In terms of the theories that had been put out there, the idea that Russia blew up their own pipeline never made any sense to me at all. I can't even articulate why they would do that. The idea that Biden did that, look, I could see it being in U.S. interest to do that, to blow up Nord Stream 2. I just think Biden was too weak. I don't believe Joe Biden.
But are you in? I guess you in.
So that leads
the Norwegians, the Ukrainians, NATO, whatever.
Look, that leads me to, who benefits? And it leads me to think either the Ukrainians blew it up or Ukraine's allies. I don't think Biden did because Biden was so weak, I don't think he would give the order. I find that implausible.
But you're in favor of it.
Look, I was in favor of stopping it. I think blowing it up was a good thing. So I'm supportive of that, but I don't think America did that. I don't think Biden gave that order.
But in
I
general,
could see Trump giving that order, but he wasn't in office.
Yeah. And you think that the largest act of industrial sabotage in history helped our allies in Western Europe or other fellow NATO members?
Look, I got to say, I don't understand. For some reason, you are really invested in defending Russia, and I don't get that. I'm not attacking you with that. I'm genuinely I don't get why you're so passionate about defending Russia.
Actually, I was defending Western Europe, the home of my ancestors, and that, tripling their energy costs and destroying their industrial base. Wait, not like. You just accused me of being an anti-Semite, an isolationist, and a Russia lackey. I've not called you a neocon once, which you are, but I haven't said that.
That's absurd. Those neocons that oppose the Iraq war.
Right.
But that's
okay. But I haven't called you that because name calling.
You just said, which you are. You just called that.
Okay.
Called me that. You just did.
I guess what I'm saying is you're triggered because I use name calling. I get it. I was triggered when you called me names. And I'm triggered once again that you're calling me a Russia defender when in fact I'm defending Western Europe. And I don't think that you...
Do you think Putin's our enemy?
Well, he's literally our enemy. You are funding a war against him.
Do you think he is our, you're saying we're his enemy. Do you think Putin is our enemy?
I think it is a tragedy that your policies, specifically yours, helped drive Putin into the arms of China, forming a bloc that's larger than us.
So you won't answer that question.
I don't. He is literally our enemy right now. That is a tragedy for the United States.
No, you're saying, but you won't say he is our enemy. And look, like I
don't know in what sense. I don't want to be enemies with Russia. It doesn't help us at all. It may help some people in the United States, but in general, I don't want to be.
I don't want to be at war with Russia. I don't think it is in our interest to be at war with Russia.
With China. That is a disaster.
But listen, no doubt, and I want Russia and China in tension, so I agree with you there. But I think Putin is a KGB thug. I think he is a bad man. Now, I don't want to go to war with him over that.
Okay.
But I'm not naive. And like I watched
He's a bad man. He's a bad man. Okay.
Look, I watched your episode where you went to the Russian grocery store, and I'm
was that disloyal, do you think?
It was just weird. It was like a promo video for Russia, and I don't understand. I'm not attacking you when I ask why, because genuinely, like, I don't get
like when you called me and it's, I mean, you weren't attacking me, you were just noticing.
No,
but may I ask you a question? So here, well, let me just answer yours by saying the United States, the Biden administration, with your help, full support, began this war on Russia in response to their invasion of Ukraine. And one of the things was they kicked Russia out of SWIFT, of the international financial system. Yeah. And my first response was, this is going to really hurt the US dollar, which it has. And I hope someday we can have a conversation about that. It's really, really hurt the one thing that we needed, which was to retain dollar supremacy. So I was interested in the economic condition.
By the way, that's a reasonable point and a serious conversation.
I'm aware. And I was,
but I can agree with you. Like,
no, but I was accused of being, I think it's weird that you went to a Russian grocery store and said it was prosperous. No, my point is,
it looked like a commercial. It looked like a commercial. Isn't it? It's wonderful.
No, it was an argument against the efficacy of sanctions. Sanctions against Russia, which you casually and enthusiastically imposed, scoring a little moral victory every time, had no material effect that helped the United States. Russia is backstopped by China, and I recommend that you go there and see it. It is way nicer than Washington, D.C. Way nicer. To me, that's a tragedy. I was horrified and angry at my leaders, including you. It's like, I want to live in a country that's nice, with low food costs and no homeless people.
All right.
I don't understand why that's too much to ask.
So do I.
I get wars with Iran. No, I just want lower food costs. How's that?
So look, it's a weird argument that you do often, which is, listen, things are crappy in America. Liberals have done bad things to America, so we shouldn't worry about any enemies around the world.
Republican senators, Republicans don't care about us. They're focused on other countries.
You wrote that,
and our country is dying, and you don't care because you're focused on Iran or Putin.
So you believe that I don't care about America. I guess you believe Donald Trump doesn't either. Like nobody cares.
I believe that your focus is way too on other countries. It's way too focused outward. The money that you send abroad could be used here and should be.
What money that I send abroad, by the way, I emphatically agree with
Ukraine. You don't even know.
I emphatically agree with Donald Trump's, for example, dramatically slashing USAID. I think the only reason we should be deploying that is to benefit U.S. interest, national security interest, and keep Americans safe. And so,
how much did you vote to send to Ukraine?
Look, you're in about $80 billion.
$80 billion.
Yeah. So you're in, you love just giving these broad characterizations that are not accurate. I'm genuinely puzzled. Look, I don't want to go to war with Russia. But I don't think they're our friend. I think Putin.
I agree.
I think Putin is a murderer. I think he's a liar. And I think he does not wish well on America.
Okay.
And there's a difference between saying that, just like Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire and Putin was in the KGB. Look, my father was imprisoned and tortured in Cuba. I hate communists. It was actually Batista that tortured my dad. My aunt was imprisoned and tortured by Castro. I hate communists. I think communism is evil. And so I think there is a value there is nobody who stands up to communist China more in the Senate than I do, because I think they're evil. Do I want to go to war with China? Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But I think we have all sorts of tools to stand up to our enemies. And I think China is engaged in a 1,000-year war against the United States.
Okay.
They're trying to defeat
We're
us.
so all over the map. We're your family in prison in Cuba and China and all this stuff. I agree with you. I'm totally opposed to communism, always have been. I don't think that Putin loves us. I'm distressed by the moral condition of most leaders around the world. Most of them, they all kill people. I'm against that. I'm just saying, I wish the focus here was more on
Can I
the
say
United
something?
States.
I actually don't agree with that statement. They all kill people. There's a moral relativism. So I don't think Donald Trump is a murderer. He doesn't kill people. We don't have concentration
Donald
camps.
Trump a murderer.
You just said world leaders all kill people, and there's a moral relativism.
I'm hardly a moral relativist.
But you are. That statement was the essence.
I'm an anti-Semite, an isolationist, a moral relativist. Okay, no, I'm not.
Did you just say world leaders all kill people?
I'm against killing people in general.
So,
and hyperventilating about how Putin was in the KGB or whatever. I just want to serve American interests, and pushing into China is not in our interest at all. And you helped do it, and you haven't apologized. And you should.
And by the way, you're the cheerleader. I helped drive him into China.
You
It's a
did.
complete lie.
You funded the war against him.
No, I authored the legislation that shut down Nord Stream 2 that prevented the war. And if Trump had still been in the White House, we would have had the war. And look, the comment you made, the reason things like moral relativism are so dangerous, everyone kills people. No, there is a difference. The United States, we don't have concentration camps. We don't torture and murder people. You look at China, where they've got 1 million prisoners in concentration camps. You look at Putin, where he's got prisoners in Siberia. He tortures and murders his political opponents. Donald Trump doesn't do that. America doesn't do that. And by the way,
what are you
most
even
other
talking
countries
about?
don't do that.
I see the game. It's like,
you're the right thing again.
I'm distressed.
No, I'm responding with facts. You don't like the facts.
I don't even know what facts you're talking about. I'm not saying that Trump puts people in concentration camps. I campaign for Trump. I love Trump.
So did I.
Okay. So this has nothing to do with Trump. I'm merely saying,
when you said every world leader kills people, it puts them all in this
emphasis on what's happening inside the country. That's it.
Is there a moral difference between America and our enemies? Is there a moral difference between America and what is it? Articulate it. It's valuable to say why. Why are we a better country founded on better values than China?
I'll tell you why.
And I know
because the whole purpose of America is to protect the God-given rights that each person possesses by virtue of being created by God.
Amen.
By being human. That's the point of our founding documents. And no other country articulates that in the way that we do. And that's what I love about America. My family's been here a long time. I'm never leaving. So I really love the country, despite going to a Russian grocery store. Despite asking you questions about AIPAC, I love America is the truth. And I love Trump. So, but I just want more emphasis on America. That's it.
For the record, he will be leaving shortly. He's got a summer home in Qatar now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I emphatically agree with America first. I think Donald Trump does as well. And I think his foreign policy has been vigorously protecting that. And I agree with the president.
Good. Well, I appreciate your taking all this time.
Sure.
And I know you didn't mean it. You called me those names. Thank you, Senator.
All right. Well, what do we got? Let's get some final thoughts on our first Tucker Carlson episode here.
It's just interesting points of view on, I guess Tucker is just focused pretty much as an isolationist on inward and what are we doing for the people here? But at the same time, you can't just turn a blind eye to the outside world. So you have to do something. And I think Ted Cruz has a pretty good plan or a policy idea for many of the things that he wants to do and the way he wants to do it. So I think it's a fair point, but they also taking care of the people here and doing power projection and things like that are not mutually exclusive things. They do not have to be. We can do that both. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. That and I can't stand Tucker's laugh.
Oh, it's like a maniacal evil laugh from a movie or something.
Yeah.
Like a ridiculous comedy where the evil genius laugh is so over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a thing, because Tucker was and is still a popular person, but popular with a huge range of different people, I think probably our age-ish and up very easily. You know, a lot of mom and dads in America still love Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
No, I actually had maybe 6 months or so ago, I was talking about the insane rise of anti-Semitism on the right. And I had a family member, I was mentioning the people who were responsible. I remember Tucker Carlson. I remember a family member said, Tucker, I love Tucker. You know, and I remember thinking, like, you just don't know. You have no idea. You have no idea. You know, and because people don't. You know, people think of probably Tucker Carlson as like, oh, he's the Republican guy. He's one of those Republican guys. He got a bad rap, but he loves America and he loves all of us. And, you know, we love Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've had buddies who say, you know, my mom and dad turn into Tucker every night. Every single night, turn into Tucker. You know, and you wonder, like, how much of the stuff do you miss? Do they not see?
Yeah.
You know? But even someone like Ted in this one, right? I have such respect for how he handled himself throughout the entire thing. Because that's the kind of person that, in the way that he acted, I would want someone just like him on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you can politely disrespect and still have a good, healthy conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Tucker, you don't want him on the left or the right. He's poison. He's poison. You can't have a real healthy debate. Everything is a gotcha. Everything is lies and misdirection. The amount of times he jumped back and forth, it's just shocking. And it's funny, though, how many times Ted Cruz brought up the different times that Tucker refused to support an action by America. And it would pretty much be immediately after each time Tucker would say something like, oh, yeah. Oh, they're trying to kill us, and we should just kill them all. Let's nuke them all. I'm like, wait, you were loudly outspoken about any action.
Yeah.
Now you're going to nuke them all? Come
he's
on.
being an isolationist and he wants to, nuke Iran just because they're trying to kill Trump.
Yeah, I mean, now this is where I'll push back against Ted Cruz. The concept of we don't know if things would be worse if we got rid of the guy who's there. Can they really get much worse compared to Iran? Can Iran get much worse if the entire country is focused on destroying the West? What's worse than that? And you're responsible for funding and training terrorists across the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
And if given an opportunity, you probably nuke America.
Yeah.
What's worse than that, Aaron?
There's probably not.
I don't think there's much.
Yeah.
You know, like you're at the tail end of the worst possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. But even so, even with something like that, okay. So let's say you take out the leadership. Who are you left with? You're left with approximately. This is going to show my lack of education in Iran real quick, right? But approximately two-ish groups of people: the Islamists and all the people who were originally from that place, who are all enslaved currently by Islamists. And so even if you return the vote back to the people again, the majority are Islamists, and they're going to vote in an evil Islamist leader again.
Yeah.
You know, and all the regular people who are still trapped there by Islam, they're all still essentially slaves.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with something like that? I mean, if we're being really honest, I mean, let's have like let's have a weird thought here for a moment, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we want to fix Iran. Okay, so we have the locals who are there, right? Who are not Islamists. You just want their country back. They just want freedom again, just like we have here in America. And then we have all the Islamists who will never let that happen again. Okay, so now we take out the Ayatollah. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
We take out the president. We take out the guard. We take out all the big military organizations in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
How do we fix it?
So what we've always tried to do is do a coup, like we did in Afghanistan. We supported the Taliban, back in the 80s.
Yeah, well, we're not talking the nonsense stuff that weak leaders do, right? That's weakness. Anytime you choose radical Islam over anyone else, you've made a mistake. Because they're just as bad as whatever dictator. Right. The difference is they will connect with other radical Islamist leaders throughout the world to continue, taking over all of the world.
Right.
For
but
Islam.
So what do? Do you try to send in weapons and support the locals?
Yeah, so let's say I don't know what the population of slaves. Let's say it's
You don't know?
I know. Yeah, and you're talking about Iran? Why even speaking? You have a podcast? You know anything? Let's just say it's an eighth of them, right?
Okay.
Let's say an eighth of them are the non-Islamists. Those are the regular people. They just want to have regular lives and regular jobs and freedom, just like we do in America. That's all they want. And so 7/8 of them are Islamists. We'll say out of those 7/8, a third of them are radicalized. The other third, they're not radicalized, but they support everything that the radicals do. And then a third of them, well, they're the quote unquote the good Muslims. They're just normal people who want normal lives.
Yeah.
But in the end, the Muslims are going to vote the Muslims in.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do there? How do you fix that place?
I don't know. Honestly, I mean, you pretty much, the only way to really do it is to invade and put boots on the ground and occupy for 100 years.
But what are you doing in the realm? Islam's the problem, isn't it? Or is it not the problem? I hope someday that I have some way of believing that it's not, but I don't know how Islam's not the problem. So if Islam's the problem, let's say we're there for 100 years. What are we doing in that 100 years? Are we saying Islam's not allowed here anymore?
Essentially.
That's my vote.
Yeah.
My vote is Islam is not allowed in this country. But see, then it gets really, obviously that turns me into probably an evil dictator really quick.
Oh yeah, it does.
Because my thought is you have to remove every single person who supports Islam from every Western country. Because eventually, due to the way they multiply compared to non-Islamists, if the average Muslim has 6 to 8 children per family, they outbreed us in every country they ever go to. And then eventually, once a certain percentage of the population becomes Muslim, they only vote Muslims in. Those Muslims then protect other Muslims. They put blasphemy laws, sharia courts, all the standard stuff that happens. So even in your scenario where you have nothing but, quote, for the most part, quote unquote, good Muslims, right? My last job, right? I went to work every day. My buddy, I won't say his name, but he sat right next to me.
Yeah.
And I loved him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another great
I told you, him and I went to what were they called? Cigar lounges. A new concept for me. I never even understood they existed.
Okay.
I went to a whole bunch of them all around Virginia. And I loved it. I have nothing but great things to say about him as a human being.
Yeah.
Does that change the fact that when too many of them come, darkness falls, hope is gone?
Potentially. Who knows?
Yeah. So I don't know. I wonder, it's sad because it feels like someday the only way to protect against all of this is to push them all out. Every last one for every Western country.
Well,
because otherwise you lose them all. You lose every single country to Islam. And you say, at what point do we say enough's enough? If 100 years ago you had 12 countries and now you have 50, and now the most popular name in the world is named after a murdering, raping pedophile. At what point do we say enough's enough?
It's a good question. I know. That's why I think we'll wait and see how things happen in the UK and in Germany or Europe in general.
What I'd really like to do at some point, obviously we have so much stuff ahead of us. We're just getting started on our journey here. But I'll be very interested in doing some really hard research, you and I, into what a healthy Muslim country looks like.
Okay.
Right? Which ones are out there that the world says they're healthy, right? So, for example, what we are now selling F-35s, most advanced stealth fighter jets in the world, to Saudi Arabia. Okay? So we've basically said Saudi Arabia are somewhat the good guys. Is that the thought behind something like that? And in Saudi Arabia, right, men control women. Women have, if I remember correctly, no real rights past the ones that men give them. They can't even leave the house without written permission. So we've got a country, the good guys, where half the population is enslaved the other half of the population. Those are the good guys? That's a healthy country?
Or it's just money.
Are there any? That's what I wonder. Is there a single country where women have the same rights as men? Where you can drink alcohol and not be arrested?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where you can go on a date with someone and not be put in jail and risk being executed? Is there a single one that exists?
I don't know.
I
We'll
don't
have
know
to do
either.
research.
Yeah. And I hope that there is. Make no mistake. I hope that there's some version where you say, okay, there's hope. Whereas seeing reality and saying we're just going to pretend hope's there, that can't work.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
Well, anyway, so here we go. Another episode successfully recorded. Love
Heck
people
yeah.
enough.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you all for your time, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Hey everyone, this is Micah.
And this is Aaron.
From Love People Enough. Please consider signing up for our Patreon so we can continue to bring you hard-hitting episodes and grow our channel to reach the widest audience possible. Link below in the description.